Hello, welcome to another tonalist landscape oil painting demonstration. This is your painter in residence, M. Francis McCarthy, and the name of the painting I am bringing you today is Summerstorm. I'm pretty sure it's a 14 by 20. I'm not positive. It could be a 12 by 18, something like that. Anyway, I think it is a 12 by 18. Anyway, it's a scene I painted before, but ooh, very long time ago. And I'm thinking 2014 or something like that, 15. And when I did paint it, it was one of the few paintings I thought I did that year that was really good. I sold it, and the, so I have not even gone back into my archives to look at that previous painting. I did get some like echoes as I was painting this new version of the scene, because these same sorts of elements come up in the landscape that you have to reconcile, and that's one of the things I think that evolves as you paint is, like you say, you got clumps of random grass. How are you going to interpret it, in a way that's interesting without calling too much attention, etc., and so on. Um, that was definitely the case in, say, the lower left quadrant here. Now, we did miss a bit of the drawing stage. Sorry about that. That happens. I either forget to turn the camera on. Usually I forget to turn the camera back on because someone comes in the studio or something. But that's okay, because most of the meat of this video is me doing the color, and I think that's probably the bit you're most interested in. Now, for those of you that are interested in like the color mixing and things like that, this is one of those paintings that would be good to look at in the members area. Actually, I was going to say there was no pre-mixing, but there was pre-mixing on this. But sort of interesting in that a lot of greens, a lot of blues, not that many warm colors. I get into some tans and things, but really stay away from any deep reds or oranges or even browns. So the browns are mostly used to knock things back, and one of the things that I do have some like tans here, but one of the things that I used to knock those browns back was raw umber, of course, and its buddy ivory black or lamp black. I really don't see much of a difference between the two. Anyway, this was a successful painting from back in the day, and I have, like I said, I haven't looked it up, but I recall the brief at that time was to paint very thick. That was not the brief today. The brief here was to paint just as thick as I need to pull the painting off, and no thicker. And that was on a board that was a bit of a wood texture. That was on I was having I was having wood laminates put on MDF for a long time, and that would have been Fijian Kauri. This is just on plain hardboard, and it was primed with a gray, and I guess I want to maybe talk about that because that ended up working out really, really well. For one, all the greens and things are cool and dusky. In the sky, you can see the sky is almost painting itself because I have that gray underneath. All I really need to do is move things around. I'd be willing to bet you quite a bit of that gray made it into the final sky. So now that was a case of when I was doing board prep that day. I probably had in mind to do some smaller paintings with some gray. But I had some leftover gray, and so I prepped this board, and lo and behold, I grabbed it when I was ready to do a drawing. And so maybe that's something we could just chat about a little bit. I want to read a little bit from Composition of Outdoor Painting today too, but I've talked about this on the channel before, but we're always getting new subscribers, and even those of you that have been subscribers for a long time don't get a chance to to maybe watch every video that I do. But it's a good idea with board prep to always do extra boards. I don't recommend prepping one board, doing a painting and then prepping another board. I recommend having a board prep day and prepping a bunch of boards, all different sizes. In this case, I did some gray on the day when I prepped this board, which was awesome because this really worked out well. And I make a mental note to myself to have a few boards prepped with a gray. I'd say really for my purposes, just having the regular hardboard tone, which is a brown, and the gray as an alternative was probably sufficient for me. I don't get real jiggy. Some people like to paint on tones like yellow, or in the past I have painted on burnt sienna or more reddish tones. These days I like the brown, and in this case I thought the gray was really, really awesome. A lot of times I use gray prime boards for, well, of course, monochromatic. I wouldn't tend to do a monochromatic this large. I just don't have much faith in the marketability of that. And not that, if I was absolutely intent on painting a monochromatic, I'd paint it large if I felt that was the way to go, whether I thought I'd sell it or not. But, I'm pretty content to get those out of my system at the smaller sizes. And I have sold a few, and we'll see. But, of course, the monochromatic thing is always some sort of underpinning. I went pretty far even with my drawing, as you can see. Pretty typical if I have an expanse of water to paint that same time as the sky, because really it's going to be the same basic colors. So, and now on this bit of water, I made it wider, and one of the challenges in this was because of the higher horizon. So much of the landscape, the top bit of the river, was just reflected trees and hills and things. Oh, I'm showing you some new brushes. Yeah, and I talk about those a bit in the live portion. Yeah. What I decided to do there was just bring in a bit more sky, and I fiddled around with that all the way up to the very end. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, when you are revisiting scenes, it's good to, I think it's a dang good idea. Oh, no, we're talking about board prep. Yeah, so have a bunch, just dedicate the whole day. Maybe you want to paint, but dedicate that whole day to board prep. Get yourself maybe 20, 30 boards all prepped. And what I do is I come into the studio. I also have tons of reference images, which I have prepped as well. And then maybe I wanted to change a sky or change a coloration or add a road or a river or whatever I'm going to do to that reference image. I have a big folder of those ready. I have a big bunch of boards ready. And I show up in the studio and I go, what am I going to do today? Sometimes I have this feeling like, well, I might need to get a video up in the channel in a hurry, so I'll do a little one. Or, I only have an hour to paint that day. I might do a little one. Or I might, like in the case of this, I have the board prepped. I had a reference image done. I thought, well, what reference image would work on the gray here? And then I saw this one. I was like, yeah, that'd be really good on the gray. And it was super good on the gray. And so I did the drawing on it, and the drawing has been sitting there for over a month before I finally got around to doing the color. And that was because I had a show to hang and working on setting up my studio in the back of my home here, and things like that kind of kept me from getting into any larger work. But now things are back to normal. I jumped in and I did it this week, and I feel really good about it. And a lot of plays off the greens on this, and I had a friend of mine who's quite an expert in art and art history, and he was saying, well, why Constable was so great. I'm like, no, well, I have my ideas, but I says, why do you think? And he's like, well, because he would use 20 greens. He had 20 greens. I would be willing to bet you I can muster 20 greens. What I did with these greens, because most of them are cool, there are places where I did warm them, but even where I warmed them, I warmed them with my cadmium red as opposed to the burnt sienna. A burnt sienna would be my usual go-to for warming greens, but I went with the cad red here because the cad red leans a little, even though it's going to warm up that green, it's going to lean more towards the cool side. And of course, used a lot of alizarin crimson as well, and I love to throw alizarin crimson in the greens, especially in the shadow areas, you know. Anyway, let's just take a minute here. So that's what I had to say about this painting. I think it turned out good. Let me know what you think in the comments. I think we already read some of this already, but this was his introduction to composition of outdoor painting, page 1. Let's just start over again. All creative endeavor is, and this is by Edgar Payne, Composition of Outdoor Painting. Great book. Go get it. You won't regret it. All creative endeavor is towards definite purpose. Therefore, it is imperative that we have a definite conception of this purpose as well as a clear understanding of the means that accomplish this end. Quality in fine pictures is dependent on a knowledge and a respect for the elements which create it. Actually, a fine painting is a composite of all of its factors and influences. Bringing these together to form this composite creates the process of composing. Hence, the study of composition is a matter of studying art and all its factors and influences. And I remember reading this to you, but I think it's good to read it again because this is a book on composition, and what he just said is that he believes every aspect of art is involved in composition. So not just where you're putting various shapes and forms, which is the traditional meaning of composition, but the values, the colors, the approach to the subject matter, all of these things add up to composition, really. Yeah. Back to Edgar. That art is entirely an abstract or invisible element, and true artistic procedure seeks to conceal governing influences. Means that we cannot approach the subject directly, but must go back to the beginning and look into the purpose of artistic expression, or the reason for its being. Then search out, study, and analyze each factor or principle, having either remote or direct bearing on origin, theory, or practice. Yeah, so what's he saying there? I feel like I got to translate because this guy is pretty erudite. Not that you're not, you know, but some people maybe not and watch the channel anyway. What he's saying is that what I think he's saying is that the things that create a fine picture are there's a multitude of them, and many of them are abstract, and it's hard to know what it is that's making a picture good, unless, of course, you're either, I was going to say a critic, but a lot of critics, I don't know if they know what makes a picture good. Maybe they do. I don't know. Art criticism used to be a legitimate occupation. I don't really think it is anymore, but definitely you can know what makes a picture good by making pictures and making good ones. That's pretty much what I think he's saying there, you know. And he certainly has done, and he's qualified to write and speak on the subject, as I am. I've done some too, and this one is, I think, qualifying for it. We'll get back into that. I remember getting that far before because it's very dense slabs of information that he's imparting, but we're going to get back into it because sometimes I run out of, well, you know me, I'm always saying the same things, aren't I? But they're probably things you need to hear. Anyway, I felt I pulled this picture off pretty well. It's living in a fairly narrow color space. The real challenge was, you know, of course, chucking there was a lot of phthalo blue involved in the entire picture, and the greens especially. But there were some areas like these trees that are on our left there, where I chucked in quite a lot of like that cad red, like I was saying, to bring in some warm elements, and then in the grasses and things. We're zooming in, we're zooming out. And then I noticed a little bit that I had to go in. Yes, I had to put in a few more highlights there, I reckon. Anyway, that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you coming around. And thank you so much for those of you that have donated and contribute to helping to support the channel. I really appreciate you guys a lot. Until I come back with another video, do me a favor, do me a solid, take good care, and stay out of trouble.